conversations, and this is something too that happens a lot, and I'm just going to go over that. How many people here have children? Yeah, okay. Pretty well everybody? Did your hand go up, Rita, or not?
No, no children.
Okay. That you have parents, so pick one of your parents you can do this with too, because it works on anyone with that. What I want you to do is close your eyes and look in your internal picture inside your mind as to how old the child, pick one child, don't go looking at both. Pick one child, if you have more than one, and pick one and see what age they are inside in your internal vision. And take you 2 seconds. Just take a breath and open your eyes. And
well, I've been working on this one.
Okay, so let me ask my questions first. How many found that the internal vision did not match the biological age externally? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the other rest of you did. 7. Yeah. Mostly what happens, and I'll tell you how I found this out, was because it was a lot of things that I teach come to me through necessity. And so in other words, somebody comes to me with an issue and I don't know how to deal with it, so I ask and the answer pops into my head. And this technique was one of them, and I use it a lot because especially when I'm doing my psychic tarot card readings, I get people come in and they're upset about their kids, doesn't matter what age the kids are, or they're upset about their parents, the other side of things. And so what I do is ask them to close their eyes and take a look at the internal vision to see what age their kids are. At 99.9% of time, they are not the appropriate age. So let me tell you a couple of things that I remember. One of the very first time this ever happened, it's a lot of years ago now, a friend of mine who I was staying with had 3 children. Now, this was before emails. That'll tell you how long ago I had this process. We used to write letters back and forth because we took the same training and we stayed friends. And her letters were full of what her children were doing. Her children were 30, 28, and 24. But her whole life was about her kids, right? And then they asked me to go up and do some workshops and things, because they didn't live where I lived, obviously, because we're writing letters. So off I went. And through our conversation, she said something about getting tired of, being responsible for these 3 kids. And she was figuring it was time to get on. So this process just dropped into my head. Well, why don't you close your eyes and take a look at how old your children are? They were 6, 4, and a baby. Now, you treat a 6-year-old much different than a 30-year-old. Or a 24-year-old who just got married, very different than a baby that's in your arms. So I said to my friend, well, you need to grow them up. She'd done a lot of the same training as I'd done, and she didn't want to do that. And I thought, oh, that's pretty weird. And that's when I first ran into how we don't always want things to change, right? So anyway, I was there several days. I was there for a good long weekend because I was teaching all weekend. And she came to me at the very end and she said, I'm ready. And so we grew them up, and do you know her letters totally changed. I hardly heard a word about what the kids were doing. It was all about what she and her husband were doing. So that was really a big step. So the next one that came along was another out-of-state, out-of-province person. And she had a 17-year-old daughter who had just begun to date. And she was very upset with this daughter. Like, this daughter could do nothing right. 17 years old? Sometimes that happens. So, again, I said, stop, take a look inside, see what you see. 12. 12-year-olds do not date. They might in today's society, which I still think is way too young personally. I'm not so much of a judgment, just because I think it is a little bit young. I don't have a judgment about it, I just think it's a little bit young. But to this mother, 12 years, so we grew her up to be 17, right, internally. No problem. 17-year-olds date. 12-year-olds didn't. So can you see how that internal picture, now sometimes when you're looking at your kids, you'll have your kids older than they are. That also creates a problem because you're expecting more from them perhaps than what their age is. Now, one of the issues that we have, hang on, I had a thought in my head and it sort of escaped me, so it'll come back to me, because there's a thing you have to watch here, is that, and I've forgotten what it was, sorry, but it'll have to come back. I haven't done that tonight yet, so I'm feeling pretty good. Must be getting later. But the whole thing with this is what is important is that you grow them up to equal the age that they are. And, oh yes, I know what it was. If you're holding a child of yours, say, or even a parent much younger than what they are, they feel emotionally, and this is what often I ask the parent, your child must be rebelling against how you see them. So let's say we have a 24-year-old and the mother sees them as 6, which believe me is more common than you realize. And what will happen is that the person who is 24 will feel like they're 6 when they're around their parent or thinking of their parent or talking on the phone to the parent, and often will say, will you just let me grow up? Or will you let me be me? Or something like that. And that's another signal that you haven't got the picture in your mind equal to them externally. So, it's like to be aware of that. Is that you holding them too young is also affecting them on the outside. Because remember, we work vibrationally. It's a fascinating little trick that I learned and that I've used a lot. And I call it a trick. It's not, it's just a process. It's a process. But it's a trick in the sense of most people don't think. And people look at me and I, what do you mean go inside and see how old they are? I said, trust me, just look inside and see what your mind's eye says. And there's the answer to all the problems that they're having. It changes because the vibration is now shifted. Isn't that amazing? Any comments on that one? Any comments at all? Okay, we're done on that then. We'll go on.